Welcome to the Shaggy Layers demo. Shaggy layers are essentially concave layers, and we are going to blend those into a nice long fringe. I'm going to start with a very basic round brush blow dry in order to get the hair nice and smooth and create some movement to show off our layers, as well as ease our cutting so that we can see our layers move and know how much we need to take off. So first I take the section just below the ears at the nape, and I use my pinky finger to grab about half of the hair and about the width of my brush. And when I'm blow drying, I like to scoop the hair from the base at the scalp, and I pull the brush out. I spin the brush. The pulling and the spinning of the brush creates a nice tension, which creates that stretch on the hair, and then it ends up nice and shiny with a slight bend from the circular brush. So you can see that there is some nice shine achieved with the natural boar hair brush. I'm using a natural hairbrush. These brushes are not vegan. I do find that they create a nice smooth finish to the hair, which creates a really easy surface for cutting. Now I'm working behind the ear, so I've taken basically a V kind of mohawk section across the top so that I can just focus on the sides. So my sectioning for this blow dry is about 8 sections. So it's about an 8-section blow dry, and it should be nice and quick. We don't want the kid to have to sit too long, so I'm moving nice and slow in the video so that you can see what I'm doing, but this is meant to be something done nice and quick just to get some smoothness in the hair to prep it for your layer cut. Now I've just spun the hair with my brush. That's an option if you want a little bit more movement. It creates a slight wave in the ends, but it's not necessary. What you really want is that nice, you want it to be smooth and you want the hair to be somewhat straight. So I'm just working on the other side of the head there. You can see it's a V-shaped mohawk section, which is left on top of her head. And once we finish this side here, we'll work horizontally across that mohawk section, completing this blow dry. I like to get the hair around the face nice and smooth with my blow dry as well, which means I like to scoop from underneath. And I just hold the brush at a different angle so I can point the nozzle of my blow dryer away from her head. That way I won't burn the child with the hot blow dryer. So we're just getting some smoothness, some shine in the hair so that it's easy to comb through when we're cutting our layers. If you find the ends of the hair to be a little tangly, that means you want them a little smoother. So try rounding the brush through the ends and just spinning it while you pull it through and adding heat. That will smooth the surface of the hair and keep it from tangling while you comb. That way you won't have to put a ton of oil or anything in the hair. So at the crown, I like to create as much volume as possible, and so I blow dry the hair straight up, and then I always spin the tips with the roundness of the brush in order to create that nice smoothness. So I'm going straight off the head, as you can see, and as I get to the ends, spin the brush and pull at the same time as one smooth movement, and a little bit of a reach to get to the front. You can have your model look up if that helps. I'm a little taller though, so I have the long arms that reach over the head. Another way is to stand in front and blow dry the hair back like I just did. Then you don't have to reach so far forward. So we've got some nice smoothness happening in the hair. I like a little bit of movement because what you'll see next is I'm going to cut a long, shaggy kind of piecey fringe or bangs, and having that bend in the hair is really going to help train our eye to see how that hair is going to fall and give us that movement that we're looking for when we're cutting layers. So what we're going to start off with is a triangle section, looking for the recession point of either side of her hairline. We want to make sure our sectioning is nice and clean before we start. When you're cutting bangs, always pull the hair back and look for the recession point on near the temples where I've just pointed to. Then we take a triangle section. This section determines the thickness of the bang. So we're going pretty thick, and so the tip of my triangle extends about an inch away from her crown. And I'm going to cut all this hair in my hand. So you can see there's my triangle. That's always the sectioning you want to take when you're cutting bangs. It doesn't matter how long or short the bangs are, it's always that triangle section. Get all of the rest of the hair clean out of the way so that you can focus just on the hair you need to cut. We're doing a shaggy, very easy to grow out fringe or bangs here. And so that way, if she doesn't really like the short pieces, they'll be easy to grow out. But if she does want to try something a little shorter next time, there's still some room for that as well. I'm checking to see where her hair naturally parts for this type of fringe because it is going to be an easy to grow out, more layered fringe. I like to go with the natural hair part. And you're just eyeballing the length. I've decided I want the bangs to sit at her chin, so I've combed the hair into it and measured that length with my comb, and now I've elevated the bangs. When you elevate the bangs, they'll fall softer, almost like layers. So we just use our comb and cut that fringe. It's a very layered, easy fringe. And this is our initial first cut, so this will be the guide for the rest of the fringe that we drop down. If I had a lot of hair to manage, I would use 2 sections, but I'm just using 1 here, and I'm following the previous guide against my fingers. So my fingers have angled slightly because that's the guideline of that previous cut. That's what it's dictating. So that's what I'm cutting off, as you can see. Now I've got a thicker chunk of hair, but if it's quite thick in here, you do this in 2 sections. Always check for your previous guide that you've just cut and match it. Okay, so we've got kind of a nice long layered fringe here. She can tuck it behind her ears. We're going to detail this now with some layering. I call it unicorn layering because I take that section right in the front and you hold your fingers at the same angle as a unicorn point. And that's how you're cutting the hair. And your initial sectioning for these particular layers are going to be pie-shaped sections coming from the crown where the hair swirls. So that's where you're going to always measure your sections, almost like looking from the top of a beach ball. You can see I'm planning out with my comb where I'm taking those sections. Her hair is dry, so these sections are very loose, but you can see what we're doing now is I'm taking that pie-shaped section and I'm connecting the layers to that fringe or bangs that I just cut, holding my fingers at the same angle as a unicorn. You can see that line. It looks like a unicorn. And you want to just cut those long pieces at an angle. It's a very creative haircut. So where the hair is traveling from, the furthest distance that it's traveling from into your unicorn point, that's how long the hair is going to be, or that's where most of the length is going to be. So by over directing here, I'm preserving most of the length at her crown, and I'm just blending that long piece in. That's all I need to cut. So it's preserving quite a bit of hair at the bottom, so she'll have a lot of weight. And I'm just creating movement in the crown and in the top area using these pie-shaped sections. And with this unicorn layering, the hair is going to fall very, very, very soft. So I'm not going to get that bowl layer effect. And when you're working from the other side, you always point your knuckles away from where you want the hair to be the longest, and the fingertips point where your guideline is or where the short pieces are. And you just eye the cutting that you do. Leave as much length as you can, as you've seen I've done, because you don't want to cut into the base line or the bottom of your haircut or which hair she has there. So as I over direct completely over, you can see I just need to take off that corner because I can see my guide under there, and my guide's coming from that first initial fringe or bang that we cut the very, very first part with the triangle. So all of her layers are being blended from this point that we established at the very, very beginning. And I'm preserving as much length as I can, pointing my knuckles away from the crown, and my fingers are pointing, the tips of my fingers are pointing towards her face. You can see that very, very angle, exactly like a unicorn. That's the only way I can describe it, but the imagery works. And you can see the shape that's taking place. It's a nice, layered, easy haircut. And if you were to put this hair up, half up, there would be some nice pieces falling out, and you can see there's all that weight of the bottom. So we haven't taken away from how much hair she has at her base. We've just given some movement in the top. And now we're just connecting the base of her hair to these layers. You won't find much hair that you'll need to trim off on this type of hair, but if the hair was thicker, you'd probably see a lot more. And I just cut that point off. It's you have to eyeball it, but as long as you angle and over direct the hair very far and forward from the back over into that unicorn, you'll preserve a lot of that length. So over directing forward is the key here to make our haircut super easy, because we always know if we're over directing it forward like that, we always save as much length as possible at the end. So if you really want to have the hair long at the back, just angle your fingers more and pull the hair farther forward, and you'll see what you need to cut off is just a very slight point. And now I'm just double checking the bangs here, and I noticed that they're a little heavy. So I'm going to use a point cutting technique to break up the heavy line. Point cutting is really great, and the technique is basically you have to cut points in dry hair in order to blend it. So I hold the hair, and about an inch away from where I see the hair that I need to cut, that's where I hold my scissors, and I just move my scissors and cut points into the hair. If you refer to the previous step, you'll see that technique. Now I'm just blending the front layers here around her face, and when I do this, I'm checking for corners. When you grab the hair in the same direction while you're going through your haircut, you'll see corners that you'll need to take out, and the cleaning up I do is just the point cutting, and you can see we're finished with our look. It's a nice, shaggy, easy haircut that she can grow out, and we've preserved a lot of that length there at the bottom. That concludes the lesson. Thank you so much for watching. For continued learning and complimentary videos, check out our YouTube channel, Kids Hair Academy. And to stay in touch with us and connect with other parents, share your work, join the private Facebook group at the Kids Hair Academy on Facebook. Thank you so much for watching.